The 28th season is just about here, so I want to go over some of the point changes that are happening this season. The goal was not to increase or decrease the total amount of points we're scoring in these games. Goals are just to more accurately reward, punish good and bad plays, like fumbles and fumble losses, bring more significance to irrelevant positions like team defenses, and add some more variables and excitement to the games. So under the next sheet here, under the changes, we'll review all the changes that are being made this season. On the sheet after that, if you want to check out all the point metrics that Yahoo has available to us, if you're curious, you can check that out. And then under the QB sheet here, we're going to compare some QBs in their point values last year compared to the new changes and what that would look like. So without further ado, let's go over these changes. So 11 total changes. There are 6 new point values added and 5 point value changes to existing points. Under QBs for passing touchdowns, these are going to be increasing to 1.25 points. This is just to slightly increase the reward of passing to offset the 1-to-1 TD to interception ratio right now. I think passing touchdowns should be rewarded slightly more than the interceptions. Next up, sacks. This is a bit controversial, but I think you'll like this. So if a QB gets sacked, they're going to lose 1/4 of a point. This is a small punishment for QBs and also for bad offensive lines. I know former Commissioner O'Rourke has reached out to Yahoo to see if we can measure some offensive lines. We don't have a way to do that. I think this is really the only way we can account for offensive lines and by quarterbacks taking these sacks. So we'll take a look at what this looks like more accurately with the QBs that we'll review. But I think that's one pretty important change that's coming up. Also for receiving touchdowns, increasing these from 1 point to 1.25 points as well. Basically, wide receivers are just an afterthought in our league. They need more impact. Return touchdowns, these don't happen too often, so it's not a big deal. But I think if you return a touchdown, that should be 1.5 points rather than just the point now. They're hard to come by. They deserve a bit more reward. For 2-point conversions, right now those are worth 0, and I'll be increasing these to 1/4 point. I mean, if we can get a point after kick is worth a 1/4 point to a full point, I think a 2-point conversion should at least grant us 1/4 point. And here with the 2 asterisks for 2-point conversions and receiving touchdowns, I was originally going to increase these by a 1/2 point, so a 1/2 point for 2-point conversions, 1.5 points for receiving touchdowns. I didn't want to make too many drastic changes there, so if you guys really want more an increase there, let me know, but I think we'll just probably keep it there for now. Next two, I think everyone will get behind. The fumbles. So right now, if you drop a ball and pick it back up, that's negative 1/2 point. Under the new scoring system, you don't lose any points for that. You only lose points if you lose a fumble. Right now, fumble losses aren't worth any negative points. They would be worth a full negative point, just like an interception today. And then offensive fumble return touchdown. So basically this is the fumble version of a pick six. The pick six is negative 2 points. So this is a new one here that's also going to be worth negative 2 points. So if you lose a fumble and that gets returned for a touchdown, the whole play is going to be negative 3 points, a big play. Kickers, obviously this is an important one. Point after attempt missed was negative 5 last season. We're decreasing this to negative 2.5. This is really just for all of our heart health. You know, we have fathers in the league now with multiple kids. My coronary arteries are just sludge right now with Italian subs, so none of us can really afford not to make a change here. And I was going to decrease this even further, but I think overall we'll see a few more points scored per game across all of our teams. So this negative 2.5 is really probably more like negative 1.75. Team defenses. So there is a way to score for 3 and outs that are forced. If a team defense forces a 3 and out on the offensive team, they will now score a 1/4 point for that. I think that's equivalent to like the should be equivalent to a solo tackle. That way, the team defenses aren't as irrelevant. They just need more impact in this league, and that's a great way for them to add in some value, not a crazy amount. And then passes defended, I think everyone will support this. Increasing this from 0 to a quarter of a point. If someone bats a ball down, that should be worth a solo tackle. I'm not sure why we wouldn't have this. This is also a good reward for uh, good defensive backs. Right now, a mediocre defensive back, if the receiver catches the ball, they make a tackle, they make points off that, but they don't make any points for being a good defensive back and swatting the ball away. So this is a good change here for our defensive players. So review this, and now let's take a look at some of the QBs. So with these QBs here, we reviewed their stats from last year and compare them to what they would look like if they scored those same numbers this year under the new points scoring system. So last year, Tom Brady had 32 points off the touchdowns. He this year would have 40 points off that, so an increase. Rushing touchdown, interception the same, but he would have lost 8.75 points with the sacks, which would be a total loss between just these two numbers here, between passing touchdowns and sacks. And for fumbles, he actually decreases fumbles. We get more accurate numbers here with the fumble losses compared to just the fumbles, so only -2 points versus -3.5. He got a half point for his 2-point conversions. Pick sixes were the same, solo tackles were the same. So let's look at his numbers here. Last season, he had a total of 18.5 points. That increased to 1.25 under the new scoring system. So this is perfect, just a 6-7% increase for him. Not a drastic thing. That's really what I was going for here. Just more variables without a drastic change in percentage for most of the QBs. Cam Newton, the same. He had 5.75 point. He only had a point increase under the new scoring system. He also had 35 sacks and more accurate fumbles here. He lost 4.5 points last year, dropping the ball, picking it back up. He only lost one fumble though last year, which would only lose him -1 point. So that was a lot more accurate. He overall increased 4.3%. Now, I want to look at some of the outliers, the two quarterbacks, one with the most sacks last year, one with the fewest sacks last year, who played all 16 games. So Matt Stafford, total of 47 sacks and a lot of fumble losses. And Phillip Rivers, only 18 sacks, the lowest in the league for playing all 16 games. And he actually decreased his fumble points again from -4 to -1. So these two quarterbacks probably had the biggest, largest, most drastic change in their point scoring systems here. So Matt Stafford, just an awful QB. He lost 5.75 points under the new scoring system, which was 75% of his points. I mean, he's just not good overall to begin with. He had a lot of sacks, a lot of fumble losses. He's just not very good. And then Phillip Rivers here actually increased 38% because he didn't get sacked very many times, and his fumble losses were more accurate here. So I think these were probably the two quarterbacks with the greatest change. I think overall we'll see more look like Tom Brady and Cam Newton here with a small percentage of change, but nothing crazy. But these are the changes happening this season. If you have any thoughts about the half point for the 2-point conversion, receiving touchdowns, let me know. But want to prepare you guys for the upcoming draft. So good luck, and yeah, make sure to review this list.